Thank you so much for checking out the Broker That Never Sleeps podcast. Today, we're going to talk about mental toughness. And that is one of the most important aspects or attributes that you can possess if you're a real estate agent. So we're going to talk about that today. But first, I'd like to take 1 second, if you wouldn't mind, just to hit that like button, that notification bell, so you know when all of my content hits. It'd be really amazing if you did that. And if you could subscribe to the channel, that would also be pretty cool too, because you're gonna stay up to date with all the content, all the little nuggets of wisdom that I drop. So please do that right now. So mental toughness. This is it's probably the most important thing and one of the biggest things that I always try and teach new agents that either join my team or just ask me questions about the business, because this is a very daunting business. And if you're a real estate agent or an aspiring real estate agent, oftentimes you're not even sure totally what you should be doing, right? Because there's so many things. You have to, do your marketing. You have to generate leads. You have to call people. You have to send gifts, follow-up reminders. You have to show properties. You have to list properties. You have to know how to use a drone. In my case, I use drones a lot. And there's so many different things: negotiating deals, putting together contracts, dealing with attorneys, dealing with banks, lenders, appraisers, home inspections, you name it. There's a million different things that you could be doing in this business of being a real estate broker. And in the middle of that, you have to remain, to some degree, calm on the inside. And it doesn't just come because you went to yoga today or, you practiced, Buddhism for a week or whatever. It comes from just a constant practice in being aware of what's happening to you, and then saying that no matter what happens to me, I am going to be tougher than that. So one thing I always like to say, and this applies, it's kings stay kings. I love that. I love that term. It also applies to women. So queens stay queens, right? So the premise of that is that if you're a king or a queen in this situation, no matter what the situation is, if it's a bad day, if you lost a deal, if you didn't get the deal, or if it's a good day, if you close the deal, it doesn't matter if it's an up day or a down day. As long as you know that you're a king or a queen on the inside, then that's who you're going to be. Okay. So you don't need to get taken for a ride, right? Most times, and this is what I say, when agents get into the business, is that they love to help their clients. And I love to help my clients too. But oftentimes when you're dealing with a client who's buying for the first time $1 million home, for example, that is a daunting process. I don't know if any of you bought anything that is more than $1 million, but there's a lot of questions that you have, and people go through a lot of different experiences and difficulties, and there's ups in the relationships, and then there's downs. So what people really look for is, and this is what I say, is that agents generally ride the roller coaster of emotions with their clients. So their clients are feeling all these emotions and they're riding the roller coaster of emotions. What I always say is, when you're a real estate agent, you have to be tough enough to not ride that roller coaster with them. Let them ride the roller coaster. But we're going to be outside walking along the road, nice and straight and narrow. And they push us. We're down. Don't worry, we're still narrow. We're high. Oh my God, we're going to win the deal. We're going to lose the deal. Doesn't matter. We always call them the same way. Of course, there's moments within a deal when you get excited and you call them and you're like, we did it. But for the most part, unless the deal is actually done, it's your job to be very, very even keeled. Because if your client is freaking out and you're freaking out, it's not going to be very good, right? So you need to be the one who's the rock, who's able to be there and say, okay, I'm mentally tough. I know I'm in a commission-based industry. I know if this deal doesn't close, I probably won't make a check this week. All of those things that are eating at you on the inside, what I want to teach you today is just how to create that mental toughness. And the way to create mental toughness, in my opinion, is to force yourself to be in uncomfortable situations. Force yourself to be in uncomfortable situations. I'll give you an example. When I first started in the business back in the day, 2008, 2009, I was running around Brooklyn, running around Manhattan, trying to find any client I could and hold on to them. I would say, although those years were probably some of my toughest years in the business where I didn't make enough really money to survive or eat, those were the years that actually taught me the most about who I was and then set me up for the agent that I was going to be. Now, not everybody joins or becomes a real estate agent fresh out of college like I did and runs around with no clue and has the ability to eat dollar pizza like I did, just to survive. And by the way, just for watching, here's a clip of me on the street in 2009 when I was totally desperate and really hungry. Walking around Brooklyn right now, showed Goldstein his roommates, like a really big spot down in Tribeca. Earlier today, went all right. The moving date's a little off, so we're not sure about that. Just had my Brooklyn client, showed him 3 places. They're all shit. Not very excited about that. I'm crossing the street right now. I'm walking under the bridge. Not sure. I gotta go show Gurov the Donna's exclusive on 35th and 3rd right now. I'm gonna go grab something quick bite, some pizza at Charleston, I believe, and see what happens from there. So obviously you could see I was on the street. I had my little, what are those little Bluetooth simulator things before you had headphones, the iPhone headphones. I forget what it's called, but I had that in because, I was just making dials while I was underneath a bridge looking for my next deal. And those times were super challenging, but those times were the ones where I said, you have 2 decisions in life, and this is what I say to a lot of people that end up getting in the business is like, you have 2 decisions. You can either sink, which is, you make excuses and you let other people or situations or environments dictate how you're going to do or what your success is. And you could just sink, and maybe it's a long and painful process. Maybe it's quick. Or you could swim. Okay. You can either sink or you could swim. And for me, and for anybody who's looking to be successful in anything, I don't care if it's real estate or podcasting or content creation, if you do it consistently over a period of time and you deal with a lot of different circumstances, things that are out of your control, okay? If you do that for a very long time, you start to develop a little bit of a harder shell. You start to become more tough for different situations that might come at you. So for me, it's all about just maintaining, staying in the game, forcing myself to say, okay, I made 10 phone calls last week. I made $0. Maybe this week I'm going to make 20 phone calls. Maybe I'm going to make 30 phone calls. And by the way, those 30 phone calls, 28 of them, the people just hung up on me or told me to go fuck myself, right? So that happens. But you know what? I became more and more attuned, and I started to develop the skills on how to overcome objections in circumstances. So when people tell me no, instead of me saying, okay, no, I'm not eating today because they all told me no, I started to say, no. I'm not going to let you say no to me right now. Hold on. I've called you 3 times. I told you I have something very much of value to you, including potentially giving you an unsolicited offer in the tens of millions of dollars for your place. And you're telling me you're going to say no? How about you listen for another 3 minutes, right? If you talk to somebody like that, that's because you've been through it. You haven't just called your first time. That's because there's a level of frustration that you have. You're literally frustrated, so you're like, no. And that's where you need to get. It's that mental toughness to continue, right? It's the process that most people forget about. They think it's, one day I'm going to be great at cold calling. Well, cold calling isn't something that you just become great at. Becoming great at cold calling is actually just cold calling daily. And if you're no good at it at the beginning, just by doing it daily, the process of doing it makes you tougher. Because the more people that tell you no, the easier it is for you to get another no, the closer you are to getting another yes, and so on. So it's all about weathering the storm and saying, all right, look, I have 2 options in life. I can either sink, and it could be a slow and gradual death. It could be a quick one, or it could be to swim. And for me, sinking was just never an option. And some people thought it was foolish, right? People think it's foolish. My family, oh my God, you went to New York. You're in an income, you have a situation where your income is based on your production. How are you going to feel about that? I would always say, look, if my income is based on my production, I'm much more comfortable to be in a situation like that, to have my income be based on the company's production that I work for. And if it's not a good year, then I don't get my bonus. I don't know. I'd rather just be in control of my own destiny. So if I don't get a good bonus that year, I don't get a good bonus that year. And whose fault is that? Well, that's mine. Maybe I was just a little too lazy. Maybe I was riding the emotional roller coaster of my client. Maybe I didn't challenge myself enough. And that's where you have to start being honest. Because I need people to get real serious in being honest with themselves. Because a lot of people think that they're actually doing things that are going to move the needle, but they're actually very, very, very far off on that. Just posting something on Instagram that's not your listing, for example, that sounds great and it looks good, but are people really calling you? And take a serious audit. How many people are your followers? How many people look at your stuff? And do they reach out to you because of it? And look, yeah, okay, you might get one person here or there, and I've gotten people, but what Instagram does or what TikTok does is it helps you create awareness, and that's awareness, and that's a beautiful thing. That doesn't close deals. That doesn't mean that just because you did that, which is kind of easy, Instagram post, okay, it's pretty easy, but it's not easy to go through your Rolodex and say, you know what, I haven't called this guy in 6 months, but he was a buyer. He said he'd call me later. Hey, John, how you doing? Yeah, no, I know you told me he'd call you later, but you know what? Holidays are here. Just want to say what's up. How you feeling? Good, good. You ready to buy now? Why not? You kidding me? Look, you know anybody else looking to buy? So what that does is, do you see how I just flipped the script? Like I'm actually in control. I'm the cause of what I do. I'm not the effect. I don't just put it up and hope. It's like when I teach customer relationship management. So when I teach that, I say you don't necessarily want to give your business card out to people, because I went to when I first started in the business, I went to a million different real estate networking events, and I would dish my cards out. And maybe I'd get one call or one email, maybe every week or two. But then I said, wait a second, I'm spending a lot of my time going to all these different events, giving my card out. Why don't I just take control of my own life? Why don't I just say, oh yeah, here, put your number in my phone. Oh yeah, just do that. Hey, nice to meet you. Here, put your number in my phone. Taking control. I'm taking control of my life by doing that, right? And you could take control of your destiny too, always. And regardless, okay, what I'm going to tell you now is an absolutely incredible story. And I think it's just a beautiful pause in the middle of the podcast for you to hear. Because this really demonstrates how mental toughness, really, in my opinion, has made me who I am today, okay? So obviously just so you guys know, I played college football. I played football my entire life. So I've been very competitive. I also know what it means to, dig deep inside and, run wind sprints for hours and hours and hours. So I have the ability to dig deep, okay? And I always knew that was going to be one of my advantages working in real estate. Is I always thought it was like a war of attrition. And what I mean by that is, if I had a client who wanted to see apartments, well, I wouldn't just show them like one apartment. I would literally take them out and show them 40 apartments in a weekend, run them into the ground, bring them out for coffee and say, okay, which one do you want? And they're like, this one. I'm like, are you sure of the floor plan? I mean, it just seems like it's west facing. I thought you wanted south facing orientation. Is that? They're like, no, okay, this one. I'll be like, all right, we're going to apply for this one. So it's kind of like a war of attrition. And what I learned by doing that is that if you could just outlast and put yourself in these situations, they can actually be kind of fun. So for example, when I first started in the business, I took an apartment in Little Italy, and I was living there, and my rent, I believe, was a little less than $2,000 a month. And at the time, that was so much money. I mean, literally, I was probably making $2,000 a month income in commission checks. It was early in my career. And what happened a couple of times is it was maybe like the 24th, 25th of a month, 31 days in a month. And I was, 5 or 6 days away from when I'd have to pay my next rent bill. And I had $0, maybe like $30 left. And I'm like, damn, I got like 5 days to figure it out. And, asking friends or asking family, I never had any family support. That's just not something I do. I like to always take ownership over my own life. And if I'm not in a good situation, that's on me. So, I said, look, I could really get banged up about this and I could call friends or I can cry about it or ask for money. But I said, you know what, let me take this as an opportunity for growth. Let me take it for a really nice opportunity for growth. So I said, let's make this a fun game. So I got 5 days to figure out how I can make enough money to not only get my commission check to close the deal. And back in the day, there was no like wires of commission. You had to go to the lease signing, pick the check up, drop it off at your thing. Then they had at your office. Then you had to go to the office, to the bank. Then they had to go print a check. Then that had to get done, and then that had to clear. So 5 days, and I had to like clear the money. Like basically, I had to do a deal right now. I was like, all right, I got to do a deal now. Now think about how beautiful that is. I didn't take it too seriously. Look, if I didn't pay my rent, whatever. They're going to deal with it, and I'll pay it a little bit later. Who cares? Like, what's the biggest? We're going to hit you with a 10% fee. Okay. Keep hitting me with fees. So it doesn't matter, right? So I took it as a challenge, and I just went out there and I said, okay, if I have to make this much money in 5 days, what am I going to do? Like, just think about it. But before I tell you my story, just pause for 1 second. If you had to make $2,000 in 5 days to pay your rent, what would you do? Write in the comment section below. If you could write in the comment section below what you would do if you had 5 days to make $2,000 in order to pay rent in New York City. What would you do? Well, being in real estate, this is my story. Hope you had time to make your comments. But being in real estate, I said, all right, well, let me see where the lowest hanging fruit is. And if anybody knows, if you're dealing in real estate, there's always a set of clients that you might have been talking to that went a little cold, but like are in a bucket of people who are like active, who are, if the right deal comes along, they'll transact, right? So what I did was I started interacting with everybody in that bucket that I had in my CRM, where I kept all my, by the way, if you don't have a CRM, you should do that. If not, just use Excel. So I had all these people, I called them and I sourced somebody who was looking to do a deal. I said, look, I know I spoke to you about 3-4 months ago. Are you keen to make a move right now? He said, yeah, my job, I was crazy the last couple of weeks. Let me just get back into this now. I said, great, don't worry. I have a bunch of things already lined up for you tomorrow. Can we just go and meet at like 10:30, 11 a.m. downtown? I'll take care of it. We'll show you as many as you could possibly see. He's like, oh my God, you already had it all lined up? I was like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's all taken care of. Totally didn't have anything lined up. Just started calling immediately. Like, oh my God, I got to figure this out. And then I figured it out. I brought him to the building, and long story short, I got a commission check like 3 days later, and then it had to process, yada, yada. So look, I got the money cleared in my bank like on the 2nd or 3rd of the month. And that's when I put the check in. But, I said, wow, that was pretty thrilling. I just went from having nothing to like making some phone calls and like doing some things and like submitting an application and negotiating the deal and getting the lease terms. And, I was just doing rentals at the time. But those rentals were so amazing because they taught me the thrill of doing a deal quickly. They taught me how to be tough. That guy told me to, not talk to him for a couple months, and I was tough. But then I went back to him because I was even more tough. It's not the person who has $1 million in the bank that you got to fear. It's the guy that spends his last dollar to go out and make that $2,000 so that he could stay and win another month in the city. And by the way, that scenario of me having only a couple, days to make $2,000 for rent, that played itself out over the course of many years, from 2011 to 15, for example, where I was just like, I don't know. But then I started to become used to it. Then I started to say, oh man, another one? Now I got 3 days. Fantastic. Who am I going to call now? And then it was just like a really fun game of who's Nile going to call? So I think that's a really good lesson in terms of mental toughness, because all of us go through obstacles and go through challenges, and it's difficult. Don't get me wrong. I empathize with that. I've had some very tough times in my life as well. And I don't let those tough times shine on me. I exist within them, but I know that I am a king and I will always stay a king deep, deep, deep down inside. So you could throw whatever you want at me. And that's what I hope to instill in all of you, is that you can do it. You really can. And you have to want to do it. You have to make the choice that no matter what, you're not going to sink, you're going to swim. And if you make that choice and you say, no matter what, I'm always going to swim, you will find solutions to all of the problems that might be arising in your life or your business. So I think it's a really great place for me to stop right there. And I just want to say, you guys are the best, and I really appreciate all the love. My subscribers have been going up. All the likes on all of my videos have been going up too. It's not that much now, but don't worry, we're getting there. So please keep hitting the likes. Please keep hitting the subscribe button and that notification bell. Like I said, if you tap it right here, it will literally drive you insane, because I'm going to drop the coolest content and you're going to get alerted to it right then and there, so you can be the first one to do it. So thank you very much. As I said, this is the podcast. It's called the Broker That Never Sleeps podcast. We drop the most amazing bits of wisdom for you, your friends, your family, and everybody else who you want to share it with. You know, if you can, feel free to share. I'm at Nile Lundgren. You can find me on all the social media channels at Nile Lundgren, and I really appreciate you. Thank you, and we'll be checking in soon. Thanks.